Today on Shop Nation, we stuff a ton of things in a small area and make what looks like a mess so that we don't have to have a mess. Hey Shop Nation, welcome back. Today we're going to go into detail about fitting all of this into the lower cabinet for automated dust collection that's hidden. So originally, I planned for the dust collection to live back in this corner. The plan was to mount the dust collector on the wall, put a cyclone separator underneath, and then enclose it as sort of a closet. I have since changed that for two reasons. First of which, it takes up quite a bit of space. I can easily repurpose that for more storage or for additional tools. The second reason, and probably the biggest reason, is that I don't actually need that much dust collection for the cabinet. Really, the only reason I'm putting dust collection into the cabinet is for the miter saw. Now I'm putting in 3 outlets for other tools, but the main driver is the miter saw. Now one miter saw doesn't require the volume of air that a large dust collector might pick up. So a shop vac is actually gonna work out just fine. So, where am I gonna put it? So the only other location that would be hidden is here. So if you remember from the plans, this is where the miter saw is actually gonna sit. So underneath here is the only volume that we have to work with. Because of that, we have to be very specific on what we use. So that means in this small area, I have to fit a shop vac, a cyclone separator, and all of the ducting. Now you've seen me hide dust collection before in this very table. We're gonna do a very similar setup in the cabinet. So when choosing a shop vac for this particular project, I wanted the most power in the smallest footprint. This particular model has a peak power rating of about 5 horsepower, which is about the upper end of what you typically see in shop vacs. But what makes this one unique, you'll notice, is it is extremely thin, and that's exactly what I need. Now because of my space constraints, the original plan for a cyclone separator was to utilize a 5-gallon bucket with one of the ready-made caps that go on top. I think the ideal solution, if I were to go with a 5-gallon bucket, would be to use a dust deputy, but because of my height restrictions, I couldn't actually fit it in the cabinet. However, once I got all of the parts kind of fit in place, I realized I could actually fit a bigger dust collector than this in that space. So, I'm gonna go with the Dust Right. Now this is the same separator that I use in the workbench. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. But I've been using it for about a year now and it works great. So the fact that I can fit this in that small volume is gonna help out dust collection tremendously. Now for the automation side of things, I'm gonna use these products from iVac. Now iVac was kind enough to send these to me to try out, so I wanna be upfront and honest about that. But as you know, I'm a previous iVac customer when I built the dust collection for the workbench. And after about a year of use, the product is working fantastic, so I thought I'd give another one of their products a try. So when I initially approached iVac, I wanted 2 things. I wanted a system where the dust collection would automatically kick on anytime I used the miter saw. But I also wanted the ability to turn on the dust collection outside of the cabinet whenever I wanted. However, I may be also using tools in those auxiliary ports that need to kick on the dust collector as well. That is where these switches come in. These small units essentially talk to this unit via wireless control. So all you do is install this switch around the cord of whatever power tool you're using, which you want to control the dust collector with, and it then communicates and tells this switch to open. So to handle turning on the dust collection system outside of the cabinet whenever I want, this actually comes with a remote. Again, every product I'm going over, including these, will be linked below if you're interested in doing this. But I'll tell you what, automated dust collection is awesome, and I'm really looking forward to doing it in the lower cabinet. I had a couple initial ideas on how I wanted to actually run the ducting through the cabinet. My first idea was to use PVC pipe. The lower drag through the pipes should theoretically give me more suction at each port. But then I realized that the runs are going to be so short that it probably won't matter, and this stuff is a lot easier to deal with. So I'm actually just going to do all of the runs in this flexible 2.5-inch tube. Last but not least are all the fittings used for the dust collection hose. So we have blast gates, we have Y fittings, we have 45-degree elbows, and we have clamps. Now you could buy all of this independently if you'd like. However, PowerTech actually sells a kit for 3 tools. So they have this three machine dust collection kit. It comes with 3 blast gates, I think 20 clamps, 2 45-degree elbows, 2 splitters, everything you need to hook up 3 machines, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. So this on Amazon was like 44 bucks. If you were to piece them out individually, it would have been slightly more. But again, it depends on what your build is and how complex or how simple it's going to be. So here's roughly how everything's gonna fit in place. Dust collector gets shoved in the back corner, and the cyclone separator fits in perfect. So the ducting is fairly simple. from the suction of the shop vac, goes into one side of the cycle and separator. From the other side, splits into 3 and goes to the 3 different tools in the cabinet. Note to self, put on the stupid clamp first. Anytime you're doing ducting of any kind, especially for dust collection, make sure that you eliminate as many sharp bends as you can. Nice gentle curves mean less losses through the system. In order to run the lines to each side of the cabinet where those tools are going to be located, I have to make notches to make room for the tubing. So let's go ahead and do that. Now obviously I'm not just going to cut a circular hole because that would be stupid. I'm going to cut a notch that I can access from the back. But when this is pushed up flush against the wall is going to keep the tube from falling out. Now I know what you're thinking. This would have been much easier to cut out before the cabinets were assembled. I just wasn't exactly sure where it's going to be placed, how far, how big, so I just left it up to this. It's not a big deal, I'm just going to cut sideways. These iVac Pro Series components have programmable switches which allow them to communicate with each other. The instructions are really easy to follow, and you essentially just assign a location and system to each switch. These detector switches require power via a USB cable. Now they do include an outlet adapter, but the power strip I'm using actually has 2 USB ports, so it works out. Now all that's left is to finish out the ductwork, make all the connections, and install the blast gates. Alright, so everything is installed. I know it kind of looks like a mess, but let me go through it real quick. So coming in from this side is going to be the tool on that side of the cabinet. Here is going to be the feed going straight up. That's going to service the miter saw. And then coming in from this side is going to be the tool that's mounted on the right side of the cabinet. And all of that feeds into the suction of the cyclone separator. The suction from the shop vac comes out of here into the shop vac. Now the shop vac's power goes directly into this box, and this box plugs directly into main power. Okay, so I'll just go through how it works really simply. So in this side of the cabinet, we have basically this port that is going to be in this orientation, that's going to be flush with the top of the cabinet surface. This detector is what sends the signal to the box to tell the dust collector when to turn on and off. And you can see that it senses the current that runs through the cord of whatever tool that you want to collect the dust from. So in this case, I'm going to use a jigsaw just for demonstration purposes. So what you do is you would open the blast gate in this area, plug in your tool, and after turning on this jigsaw, there should be a pause. Then you should hear the dust collector kick on. I will stop the jigsaw. The dust collector should run for 5 seconds and then turn off. Alright, so all the components are in place. The only thing missing is one more of these detectors that's going to service the miter saw. Now I'm going to wait to put that on until we build out the top and actually place the miter saw, in which case I'll connect this. Now what I really like about this design is that everything is hidden. Once the entire top is built and all the faces are on and all the drawers are in, the only thing you're going to see is one wire going to that plug. Plus you'll have the 2 detectors that are going to be on the tools for either side. Just because you have a small shop does not mean you have to forego dust collection and live in a mess. You can, as demonstrated here, fit it into some very small spaces if you do your planning correctly. I want to specifically thank iVac for sending me some new products to try. They are awesome and I do recommend them. And of course, thank you, Shop Nation, for watching. Subscriber update, we're at 20,695 subscribers that I just checked on my phone. It's probably gonna be different by the time I turn this camera off. It's freaking awesome. A couple other quick channel updates. I do have a website now if you're interested or bored. It is shopnation.com with a hyphen in between. And I'm also starting to sell some t-shirts that I'm designing myself. If you wanna go check those out. They are sold through Teespring and I will link that in the description. We'll see you next time. We're gonna finish out these cabinets. It's gonna be freaking sweet.